Good evening, everyone. I'm NewsChannel 5's Alexandra Cohen, filling in tonight on Open Line. Today, we will be discussing education and funding. And our guest tonight is Katie Cour, not Katie Couric, but almost. She's with the Nashville Public Education Foundation, and she's the CEO. Katie, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me tonight on this really critical topic of education funding. My name's Katie. I'm the CEO at the Public Education Foundation, and the foundation is really designed to help support our district and become the best district it can possibly be. We do that in a variety of ways. We advocate for changes, and that's some of what we're going to be talking about today. So we see policies and systems that are not working for kids, and we work to change them. And then we also help support the district by just serving as kind of a consulting thought partner to the district to really help them think through the challenges that are facing our students every day and find solutions together as a community. So that is who we are, and we're very happy to be front and center on this topic today of education funding.
So the basic education program, just describe in layman's terms what that is and how state tax dollars are used in public education.
Yeah, so the BEP is what it's called, the Basic Education Program, and it's a funding formula that takes into account the multiple things that it might take to run a school. So everything from what a teacher, how many teachers you might need, to the salary teachers would get paid, to the classroom materials and resources that students need. And it includes 46 different things in all of those different categories. And then it costs each of them out. It tells you how much the state thinks each of those items costs. And then it determines for each county in the state how much the local government is going to need to pony up for providing for public education. It does that in a very unique way. It's what we call fiscal capacity in the state. And it means that the state considers a county's ability to raise its own revenue through property taxes, through its own sales tax, through its own other revenue streams. And it considers that when it determines how much money the state will put into the district versus how much the district itself needs to be raising as part of its county. And that's one of the things that we get into in our policy brief, given that Metro Schools pays one of the highest percentages of fiscal capacity in the state.
It's my understanding that some people are critical of BEP, or they don't like the algorithm, if you will, or how it's kind of formulated. Do you want to expand on that and just talk about the controversy that is brewing in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah, so the BEP has pretty much been controversial since it started back in 1992. It was first created during Governor McWhorter's administration because of a Tennessee State Supreme Court lawsuit that the Supreme Court found our former funding formula to be inequitable. So they created the BEP trying to create a little bit more of an equitable playing field, in particular one that allowed rural districts to be able to receive more funding from the state and really accommodate that fiscal capacity that I was mentioning earlier. So, you know, given that the BEP kind of started under controversial terms, it kind of came out of a lawsuit. It actually has remained controversial in different phases over the last 30 years. And in particular, you know, there have been multiple lawsuits by both small and urban districts. And right now, both Metro Nashville Public Schools and Shelby County Schools are suing the state for inadequate funding of public education. There's a lot of reasons why the funding formula is inadequate in our opinion and in the lawsuit's opinion. The main things are that it consistently and regularly underestimates what it costs to educate kids, and it does that in a variety of ways. In one way, it actually underestimates the number of teachers that are needed in a school district. So it takes a look at a school district. It considers, okay, we need to have certain student-teacher ratios of, say, 25-1 in our kindergarten classes. And then it assumes that you will have a ratio district-wide for all of those kids. So it takes all of your kids in kindergarten and says, given all of these children, we need this many teachers. But what happens, state law also requires districts to staff their schools and to ensure that those ratios, the student-teacher ratios, are being met at the classroom level. So what might be in compliance at the district level is almost always out of compliance at the school level, meaning we have to hire a lot more teachers. Another way that it consistently underestimates how much it takes to run a school district is the salary that it provides for teachers. So it really undersells what we believe in metro schools. All teachers should be getting paid. And certainly when you're in an urban district that needs to be competitive with our peer districts and across the state, it gives an average teacher salary that is well below what metro schools pays, and we have to make up that difference. And then the other area that really concerns us about the funding formula is that we hear a lot about this term fully funded. You know, people were, for a while, the BEP wasn't fully funded. It is, in fact, fully funded now by the state legislature, but that term is actually meaningless because what is fully funded is actually grossly inadequate for meeting the needs of our students. And that's not just my saying that it's grossly inadequate, that's national organizations recognizing that. We recently got a report from the Education Law Center that gave us an F, both in our overall funding for public education and also in our percentage of our state GDP, as education being a part of that GDP. And so, you know, we're 44th in the state, in the nation, in terms of funding public education. We clearly have a lot of work to do, and we're simply just not meeting the needs of our students.
In coming years, do you expect metro schools to take an even larger cut or hit from this funding?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do receive funding from three primary sources, which is the local government, the state government, and then the federal government. And given the COVID relief packages, we are seeing more funding flowing into all of our districts across the nation, which is great for the immediate crisis that we have at hand. The problem that provides, though, it's very helpful for the immediate need, but we actually need an overhaul of the whole way we fund public education for the long-term sustainability of the system. So yes, I do see additional funding coming into the district given federal dollars, but that is a one-time only allocation that we have to replace through changes to our state funding formula.
I believe I saw on the Tennessee Comptroller's website that about $4.8 billion in state, I guess, is in the state's budget for the BEP. Is that accurate, or have you heard anything about that? And how is it distributed to each school? Do they kind of cherry pick based on needs?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The funding formula is a resource-driven funding formula, which means that it takes into account the cost that each part of public education might cost. So like it thinks about the cost of a teacher, it thinks about the cost of a facility, the cost of technology, instead of taking into account the cost of what an individual student needs. And one thing that we're really pushing for at the Public Education Foundation is something that we do in Metro Nashville Public Schools, which is consider the student and what he, she, or they need to be fully supported in their education. And that's different based on what the student is coming to the classroom with. So for instance, the BEP considers that a student might need an English language learning curriculum and be part of our EL programming by increasing the number of teachers, increasing the number of EL English learner teachers that it will allocate to the district, but it doesn't appropriately or adequately account for the additional resources that an EL student might need to become fluent in English and catch up in classrooms. And so it's just one of many examples of how the current formula does not adequately address student need. It just considers resources across the board. Other states have moved towards a student-centered formula, including Kentucky, Florida, several other Southeast states are considering it. Georgia has kind of a hybrid model. Those are the types of approaches that we would advocate for to put the students' needs front and center and make sure that we're addressing what they need first.
I believe I saw one report that said the national average for dollars allocated per student was around like 16,000, but in Metro it's around 4,000, or for Tennessee students. Have you heard anything like that, and where do we stand compared to other schools in other states?
Yeah, so in Metro, it's actually around $11,000 per student, and that's correct. That 16,000 is the national, average. That we're well below that, and which is one of the reasons why we're 44th in the nation. Tennessee is much lower than that on average, because most of our smaller districts get less funding than put less funding into their systems than we do, and so we have a ways to go just to get us at the equal playing field of other states, and that includes other southeastern states too. I'm not just comparing us to California or Massachusetts or some wealthier states in the union. I'm actually really comparing us to other southeastern states to get us up to par with funding for all of our schools.
Thank you so much. We're going to head to a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Make sure you call us, the number on the screen. Thanks.